Have you ever been there? You're just scrolling, your thumb has a mind of its own, and suddenly you realize you have zero memory of the last minute of content you just flew past. It's like a trance, right? Well, that trance is the biggest enemy of anyone trying to get a message out there. So today we're going to get into the neuroscience of that hypnotic state, and more importantly, how to break it.
I mean, just let that quote sink in. Think about your social media feed as this massive, fast-moving river, and every piece of content, every ad, every video is just a drop of water in that current. As a user, you're not stopping to inspect every single drop. You're just watching the whole river rush by. That's the hypnotic scroll. And for advertisers, it means that literally millions of dollars are just floating on by, completely unseen. It's an incredible waste. But the solution isn't about making a louder or flashier ad. The real secret is buried in how our brains are wired.
So here's the big question that changes everything. What if the key to making someone actually see your message has nothing to do with the message itself? Seriously, what if it all comes down to one tiny, unexpected moment, all happening within the very first second? Not 3 seconds in, not after your cool intro, but right at the beginning. How could a single second be that powerful? Well, that's what we're about to find out.
All right, let's get into it. Section 1, the scroll's hypnotic trance. Because look, before we can talk about how to break the spell, we have to understand the spell itself. We need to really appreciate what's going on inside our heads when we're just mindlessly scrolling. It's not just boredom, it's a very specific mode our brain loves to be in.
This brings us to a fascinating concept from psychology called System 1 behavior. The easiest way to think about it is it's your brain's autopilot. It's the mode you're in when you're doing something you've done 1,000 times before, brushing your teeth, driving home on your usual route, and, you guessed it, scrolling through your feed. System 1 is all about efficiency. It's super fast, it feels intuitive, and it burns almost zero mental energy. And while you're in that state, your brain is actively filtering out anything that seems normal or requires any effort to process. It's a brilliant survival tool, but for an advertiser, it's like trying to talk to someone through a brick wall.
And this right here, this creates what I call the great paradox of advertising. Brands spend so much time and money crafting the perfect message, the slickest visuals, the most compelling offer. But they're assuming that you, the viewer, are actually thinking about it. The hard truth is that your brain's autopilot has already made the decision to ignore the ad before a single word of that pitch is ever heard. It's wild, right? The real battle isn't about persuasion, it's about interruption. The first job isn't to convince anyone of anything, it's just to get them to stop scrolling.
Okay, so moving on to section 2, the ad blindness crisis. Because this whole autopilot thing isn't just a quirky habit. It is scaled up into a massive, industry-wide problem. It's basically an economic crisis for anyone who needs to capture attention in this day and age.
Think about it. The modern social feed is an economy where the only currency that matters is attention. But right now, we're in a state of hyperinflation. There is a literally infinite supply of content, which creates this brutal competition for just a second or two of your focus. And over the years, our brains have adapted. We've developed what's called ad blindness, this subconscious skill where we can instantly spot and ignore anything that remotely looks or feels like an ad. And the result? Every single time someone scrolls past your ad, that money you spent to put it there is just gone. It's 100% wasted. This pressure forced marketers to find a completely new approach, one that didn't just ask for attention, but hijacked it.
So what was the breakthrough? Well, it came from rediscovering a fundamental piece of our brain's ancient hardware, something called the Orienting Response. Now, this isn't a choice, it's a reflex, just like yanking your hand off a hot stove. It's that jolt of awareness you feel when you hear a loud, sudden crash behind you, or see a flash of light in your peripheral vision. You can't not turn your head. It's a deep-seated survival instinct that forces us to stop what we're doing and immediately assess anything new or unexpected. And that's when marketers had their aha moment. If they could intentionally trigger that reflex, they could bypass ad blindness completely.
So if the orienting response is the neurological bullseye we're aiming for, what's the arrow you use to hit it? That brings us to the core of this whole strategy. Section 3, unveiling the pattern interrupt. This is how we take that cool piece of neuroscience and make it a practical, powerful tool.
The mechanism itself is actually beautifully simple. It's just a 3-step dance. First, you have inertia. That's the user lost in that hypnotic autopilot scroll. Their brain is just filtering, not really seeing anything. Second, you introduce the stimulus. Bam!
This is your sudden, unexpected event that completely breaks the predictable rhythm of their feed. It just doesn't belong. And third, that weird stimulus triggers the orienting response, an involuntary physical stop. The thumb literally freezes, the eyes lock on, and just like that, you've earned a moment of pure, undivided attention. So what do these interrupts actually look like? Well, they tend to fall into three main categories. First up is visual or kinetic. This is all about motion. Think of a video that starts not with a gentle fade, but with a jarring, abrupt cut. Or maybe an object just drops into the frame out of nowhere. Then you've got auditory. This could be a totally out-of-place sound, like a rooster crowing in an office meeting. Or, and this is a really powerful one, in a feed that's always noisy, an ad that starts with complete and sudden silence can be the most shocking thing of all. And finally, there's linguistic or cognitive. This is about using words to stop the scroll. You make a claim that's so shocking it feels wrong, or you ask a question that's so strangely specific your brain can't help but stop and try to figure it out.
Okay, so we know what a pattern interrupt is and how it works on a basic level. But now let's go one layer deeper. Section 4, hijacking the brain's autopilot. Why is this so incredibly effective? Why does this technique work when so many others just get scrolled past?
The secret sauce here is something called novelty bias. See, our brains didn't evolve to prioritize what's most interesting or beautiful. They evolved to prioritize what's new. Let's go way back. For our ancestors, life was a predictable pattern. The rustle of leaves, the chirping of birds, anything that broke that pattern, a sudden snap of a twig, a strange shadow, had to be investigated immediately. Why? Because it could be a threat, like a predator, or an opportunity, like food. So our brains developed this mandatory attention lock for anything novel. A pattern interrupt is basically a manufactured piece of novelty. It hacks into that ancient survival circuit and forces your brain to stop and ask, whoa, what was that?
And here's the most important part of this entire process. It's what happens in the split second after the interrupt. The pattern interrupt acts like a clutch in a car. It yanks the brain out of that easy automatic gear of System 1 and slams it into the conscious high-effort gear of System 2. It takes someone from that hypnotic, low-energy state where they're basically immune to ads and forces them into a deliberate, conscious state. For just a few precious seconds, all their mental filters are down. They are actively trying to make sense of what just happened. And in that tiny window, for the first time, they are actually ready to hear a message. So we've covered the theory, we've covered the psychology. Now let's get practical. Section 5, a framework for mastery. Because knowing this stuff is one thing, but actually using it effectively is the real goal. So let's break it down into a simple, actionable plan.
Before we even get to the steps, I need you to burn this number into your mind. 1,000 milliseconds. That's 1 second. That is the entire window you have to land the interrupt. It's brutal. It can't build up, it can't be subtle, it has to be immediate, and it has to be jarring. If you waste that first second on a fancy logo reveal or a slow camera pan, you've already lost. The game is over.
So here it is, a simple 3-step framework. Step 1, prioritize that first second above everything else. Your most shocking visual cut, your weirdest sound, your most abrupt movement, it has to happen right away. Step 2, engineer linguistic specificity. Don't be clever or general. Say something that directly challenges a belief, like that daily vitamin you're taking is useless, or ask a question that's so oddly specific it stops them in their tracks. And step 3, which is absolutely critical, transition immediately. The magic of that interrupt fades fast, usually in about 3 to 5 seconds. You have to pivot from the interrupt straight to your main point before their brain can reboot and go back into autopilot.
All right, let's bring it all home. Section 6, the logic of attention. When you really boil it all down, this approach isn't about being more creative in the traditional sense. It's about understanding the cold, hard logic of how human attention actually works in the 21st century. If you only remember one thing from this entire explainer, please let it be this. The single most valuable, most profitable moment in all of marketing is not the click, it's not the add to cart, it is the microsecond that a user's thumb stops moving. That single moment is where attention is born. Everything else you want to accomplish, building a brand, making a sale, all of it flows from that one tiny event. The pattern interrupt is simply the most reliable way to manufacture that moment whenever you want. And that really leaves us with a whole new way of thinking about great marketing, doesn't it? It's not about trying to shove an unwilling audience through a sales funnel. It's about understanding that you can't talk to a brain that's on autopilot. You have to earn a moment of conscious thought first. The real goal is to pull people toward your idea, and you do that by using a pattern interrupt to neurologically force them to pay attention. That's the logic.
And that is the undeniable power of this strategy.